Patriarchy patronizes women. And frankly, it disinherits men from embracing characteristics that would make them whole. It's the patriarchy of the last several thousand years that our dear Unitarian friend Susan B. Anthony, about 100 years ago, this is what she sought to fight. Patriarchy, developing from the early Greek period, took control away from earlier matriarchal cultures, planted them in what would become a long period of struggle for women. From her Massachusetts home, Susan B. Anthony would fight for a kind of justice that could potentially transform the world. How did she do this? She worked on suffrage. Suffrage is a cool word. It does not mean to suffer. It means to give support. In supporting someone to cast their vote, you provide force to their beliefs and give respect to that other person. To deny one their suffrage is to cast them out. Suffrage has been denied to people through race, knowledge, wealth, residency, criminality, the correct religion, what you do for work. Your participation in society, the way you are counted or enfranchised. Your participation comes to depend on parts of you. Surely your race doesn't define all of you, but it'll take you out of the vote sometimes. You will not be counted. Your gender does not speak for all of you, but it did in Miss Anthony's time. Susan B. Anthony began her work through what was for her time the most normal yet revolutionary role a woman could play. She was a teacher. This sort of woman's work became a backbone of her ideas that women learn as well as men. So when Susan's teacher refused to teach her long division because she was a girl, she knew it was wrong. She felt it within her. She began to think outside this patriarchy of her time. She stepped across the line maintained between women and men and became what many did not like. She presented this sort of strange man-woman presence or force that could not be restrained by a social convention. She fought for others' rights, for African Americans. She did not identify with the normal list of do's and don'ts. She did not function as a woman the way many knew a woman to be, just by asking that women receive a vote. By articulating this one slice of justice, she at once became feared and hated. Her work placed her in an important role, though. In biblical language, prophets appear when society needs it. So I place Susan Brownell Anthony in the category of spiritual leaders, like Moses, Jesus, Martin Luther King, people who act from a growing sense of injustice, which they begin to put out in the world in the best way they know how. Moses grew up as a shepherd, and he guided his people that way. That's why we have language of shepherding people. That's because that's all he knew how to do. Jesus used parables and stories, growing up in a rabbinical culture of Judaism. Martin Luther King was raised in the black church and spoke from his childhood heart from the black church. Gandhi learned about nonviolence through living amidst violence. Susan B. Anthony asked that a woman have a chance to learn long division. She asked that a woman be given an education and a voice. To give a woman a vote is to give a woman all these things. That women be counted. That women count. There are right now voting rights being guided, some would say suppressed, by offering more opportunity to vote for those in certain districts where one party owns the outcome, where certain people who don't have proper identification will not be counted. Voting is the way to shape our public, not just shape policy or influence decisions, but to shape the public. Those who are counted are those who count. And everyone else exists in a gray city, unnoticed place. Susan B. Anthony, at age 52, was arrested for voting in her own parlor. Her 8th ward consisted of less than 20 voters. On election day, In 1872, after casting her ballot, Susan B. Anthony wrote a letter to her good friend and collaborator, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, describing the day's events. As Anthony explains, the urge to vote affected many more women in Rochester than the few voters in the 8th Ward. Officials in other wards made different decisions. Some refused to register the women. Some registered the women but then refused to accept the ballots. So at the point of writing this letter, Anthony had no hint she would be arrested for her actions. Indeed, her mind was busy imagining ways that women who failed to vote could use the courts to sue for their rights, as women in D.C. had done the previous year. So, letter from Susan B. Anthony to Elizabeth Cady Stanton. There they are again. Susan's the one standing up. They're probably looking at this very letter in this picture. This is a sort of promotional picture. Okay, here's Susan's letter. Rochester, November 5th, 1872. Dear Mrs. Stanton, well, I have been and gone and done it. Positively voted the Republican ticket straight. Back then, Republicans were the... Oh, boy. Stop right there. Stop right there. We'll lose our tax status. Okay. I've done it. Voted the Republican ticket straight this a.m. at 7 o'clock and swore my vote in at that. That was all underlined. Swore my vote in at that. Was registered on Friday, and 14 other women followed suit in this ward. Then on Sunday, others, some 20 or 30 other women, tried to register, but all save 2 were refused. All my 3 sisters voted. Rhoda DeGarmo, too. Amy Post was rejected, and she will immediately bring action against the registrars. Then another woman who was registered but vote refused will bring action for that, similar to the Washington action. And the Honorable Henry R. Selden will be our counsel. He has read up the law and all of our arguments and is satisfied we are right, and ditto the old Judge Selden, his elder brother. So we are in for a fine agitation in Rochester on the question. I hope this morning's telegrams will tell many women all over the country trying to vote. It is splendid that without any concerted action, so many should have moved here, so impromptu. Haven't we wedged ourselves into the work pretty fairly and fully? And now that the Repubs have taken our votes, for it is the Repub members of the board, the Democratic paper is out against us strong, and that scared the Dems on the registry board. How I wish you were here to write up the funny things said and done. Rhoda DeGarmo told them she wouldn't swear nor affirm, but would tell them the truth. And they accepted that when the Dems said my vote should not go in the box, one Republican said to the other, "What do you say, Marsh?" "I say put it in." "So do I," said Jones, "and we'll fight it on this line if it takes all winter." Mary Hallowell said was just here. She and Mrs. Willis tried to register, but were refused. Also Mrs. Mann, the Unitarian minister's wife, and Mary Curtis, Catherine Stebbins' sister. Not a jeer, not a word, not a look. Disrespectful has met a single woman. If only now all the woman suffrage women would work to this end of enforcing the existing Constitution, supremacy of national law over state law, what strides we might make this very winter. But I'm awful tired. For 5 days I've been on the constant run, but to splendid purpose. So all right, I hope you voted too. Affectionately, Susan B. Anthony. I read that fast because I imagine Susan B. Anthony got things done. She worked fast and efficiently. So I love hearing the voice of Susan B. Anthony. Next to you, or maybe in your lap, or next to your window, was a half sheet of paper. You know, just a little half sheet with writing on it. I love to hear those quotes from the voice of Susan B. Anthony. So you may, standing or sitting from your seat, read those as you are willing and able. And if you don't want to read it, you just pass it down the road to someone else, and we'll hear their voice. Go.
What do I think of marriage? For a woman to marry to support is demoralizing. And for a man to marry a woman merely because she has a beautiful figure or face is a degradation. True marriage, the real marriage, is soulful. When two people take each other on terms of perfect equality, without the desire of one to control the other, is a beautiful thing. It is the highest condition of life.
Could everyone hear that? Who could not hear that? Raise your hand. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give it the respect it requires. And I love that quote particularly, especially since I'm getting married in December. So could you come up and read it? Microphone. So I would like people to come say it in the microphone. And if you're shy about that, we can pass it down or someone else can read it.
What do I think of marriage? For a woman to marry for support is demoralizing. And for a man to marry a woman merely because she has a beautiful figure or a face is a degradation. True marriage, the real marriage of soul, when two people take each other on terms of perfect equality, without the desire of one to control the other, is a beautiful thing. It is the highest condition of life.
What you should say is that a Christian has neither more nor less rights in our association than an atheist. When our platform becomes too narrow for people of all creeds and of no creeds, I myself cannot stand upon it.
I distrust those people who know so well what God wants them to do, because I notice it always coincides with their own desires.
The older I get, the greater power I seem to have to help the world. I am like a snowball. The further I am rolled, the more I gain. I am just as much in eternity now as after the breath goes out of my body.
People say women are impious and presumptuous for daring to interpret the scriptures as they understand them. But I think women have just as good a right to interpret and twist the Bible to their own advantage as men always have twisted and turned it to theirs.
10 women educated into the practice of liberal principles would be stronger force than 10,000 organized on a platform of intolerance and bigotry. I pray we vote for religious liberty without censorship or inquisition.
For the last 30 years, I have written the same motto in all my albums: perfect equality of rights for women, civil and political. There is another, one of Charles Sumner's, that says equal rights for all. I never write sentimental things.
I don't know anything about heaven or hell, or whether I will meet my friends again or not. But as no particle of matter is ever destroyed, I have a feeling that no particle of mind is ever lost. I am sure that the same wise power which manages the present may be trusted with the hereafter.
There's more out there. You can really just pass it down, or you can hold it up and I'll take it.
Okay.
What do I think the new woman will be? She'll be free.
Now that wasn't so hard, y'all.
I pray every single second of my life, not on my knees, but with my work. My prayer is to lift women to equality with man. Work and worship are one with me. I cannot imagine a God of the universe made happy by my getting down on my knees and calling him great.
I'm waiting for the bicycle one. Is this bicycle one?
You know, I can't tell one hymn from another. HYMN. I know there are such tunes as Sweet By and By and Old Hundred, but I cannot tell them apart. All music sounds alike to me. But still, if there is the slightest discord, it hurts me.
I don't like to get in front of people, but he said he needed the bicycle, and a nice thing to have. I have to share something else with you. When he first said to pull a piece of paper, I pulled this, and I felt cheated because it says, "Have you checked our bulletin boards lately?" I was trying to derive meaning from that. Anyway. I think the bicycle has done more to emancipate women than anything else in the world. It gives a woman a feeling of freedom and self-reliance. The moment she takes her seat, she knows she can't get into harm unless she gets off her bicycle. And away she goes. The picture of free, untrammeled womanhood.
I know some of you are ready to get up and give us your own quote about freedom and your rights and the rights you carry forward because of Susan B. Anthony. But you can do that at coffee time, not right now. Like other great leaders, like the ones I mentioned, Moses, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Susan did not remain alive to see her vision fulfilled. In 1906, she died, age 86, 14 years before the 19th Amendment to our Constitution, giving women the right to vote, 100 years after her own birth. When asked about when and if such a law would ever pass, she said this: "It will come, but I will not see it." Some of us remember that Martin Luther King said pretty much this. Some of us know the story of Moses. After leading the flock, the nation of Israel, across the wilderness, through the Red Sea, he was unable to see the final destination, or rather saw it from some distance. And that's leadership. Recognizing that you're working for something that will be much broader, larger, farther off than where you stand now. That you may not see the full result of your work. You believe in your work, though, to the extent that you can live for nothing other. You incarnate this belief. Susan B. Anthony, we live inspired by you. Some of us live because of you. We thank you. Amen. Please open your hymnals to number 16. 'Tis a gift to be simple. Should we sing this standing up or sitting down? I'm hearing some standing up. All right. I will sing it. I'll give you a hymning first. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn, will be our delight. I'll hum it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Because Susan B. Anthony was such a free thinker of the 19th century, I'm sure that she would forgive us for straying somewhat from the order of our service. At this time, I'd like to invite all of you to come forward, if you'd like, to place a stone in the water and share a personal joy or sorrow aloud. Please tell us your name, and please do not use this time for announcements. Line up in the center aisle, if you will. Postlude. I want to just add. Oh, you got some additional words. Oh, closing words. Closing words? Yes, words? Yes.
You have words too?
I have one.
Oh, dueling words.
But let me, before you do those, I want to point out, you mentioned everyone has their own quotes. Everyone has their own quotes. One of a favorite of mine from Susan B. Anthony was showed that she could be as acerbic as her portraits. She was a freethinker, as I mentioned, and as such, she joined many other freethinkers and frequently met at and spoke at a spiritualist camp in Lilydale, New York, in the 19th century. And while visiting there one time, she had a meeting with a medium who told her that an aunt wanted to communicate with her. And Susan B. Anthony responded, "I didn't like her when she was alive. Why would I want to speak with her now? Bring me someone interesting like Elizabeth Cady."
Nice, nice. Closing words, they are with us still. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives, and bring our world forward with us. It is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before them. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Amen.
Thank you very much, Michael. By the way, I should warn anybody that shares the podium with me when I'm up here. This is my blind side. At this time, the postlude is a song by Jonathan Sprout called "Carry On." It is about Susan B. Anthony and her work, and from his album More American Heroes.
Alone on a platform, she stops mid-sentence. In a room full of angry shouts, she clears her throat. She patiently waits for the return of order, and then repeats, "We are equal, women deserve to vote." A young, energetic leader, she travels from town to town, raising women's issues Accusations and insults her, but they don't keep her down. She believes in the power and the truth of her spoken word. Carry on. Can you hear the call? Carry on. Failure is impossible. She drops her vote in a ballot box on election day, claiming she has the constitutional right. But the judge tells the jury to see it another way. And Susan B. Anthony loses another fight. She lived her life determined that women must unite. She would not stop believing that equality is everybody's right. Oh, carry birthday, she's calm and self-possessed. Before a room packed with people making lots of noise again. It's a standing ovation for a hero, the honored guest, who lived her life demonstrating women are equal to men. Carry on. Can you hear the call? Carry on. Failure is impossible. Carry on. Can you hear the call? Carry on. Failure is impossible. Failure is impossible.
Thank you and have a great week.